Hey guys, EST here, and because I know most people aren't interested in this, you just want the results, not all the science behind it, because if you were into it, you would already know it. This is one of my rare videos where I'm just going to absolutely burn through this and give you the answers, and you just have to take my word for it without showing a bunch of equations and density and all this, dumb stuff. So how much electricity do you need? And the subtitle of this video should be like, should I even use electricity for this, or is it even feasible? So you got a little portable, practically pocket-sized solar panel on up to a giant solar array, on up to a full generator, on up to just like your car full of gasoline. And the amount of energy it takes to charge your cell phone 10% versus the amount it takes to boil a pot of water, I'm not even kidding, it's around 1,000 times different. So let's start with really low. Light a fire. What do you need to light a fire? Well, you could just get a lens, focus the sun about, what is that, like 50 to 1, 10 to 1? I don't know. And if you get a good enough Fresnel lens, go watch my video on it, you could just make wood just burst into flames almost instantly. Dry grass, you don't even need to paint it black. It'll just, it's up. So the answer is slightly more sun than is shining on your face is enough to light a fire. I mean, you could just rub sticks together, although that is the stupidest way to light a fire. When it comes down to electricity versus chemical energy, well, you might think, well, electricity. I mean, I've seen somebody overheat like a bubble gum wrapper. That's a gimmick. Who has one of those? We're going to find one of those. But you can just take a bunch of dry grass and you grab the jumper cables from your car and spark them a couple times and light it. That's what most people think of. But like that is like thousands of watts. Why not just use, a little butane lighter, even a jet lighter, like one of those ones that goes, like a welding flame. You can light about 100 to 1,000 fires with one of those, according to my testing. So chemical energy, check. Just regular old sunlight running through, a cheap $4 lens I got on eBay, check. And then a electric lighter. Just go to like eBay or Amazon, type in electric lighter, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So we did a lot of testing with ours, like can it light propane, can it light this, can it light, wet wood, thick wood, dry wood, all that. It pretty much lit everything on fire within reason. The torch lighter did better, but if you already have a bunch of offline map programs, GPS, survival documents, and obviously a flashlight built into your phone, plus you might be walking to a place that has phone data, or you're hiding out in the woods waiting for the network to come back up because people started rioting and looting and you got out of the place, but you want to know when it ended, well, you're already going to have a little portable solar, and you're already going to have a USB cable, so why not just plug it into an electric pulse lighter? So I don't know, I don't think I ever uploaded this video because it was so terrifically boring. But from dead empty on a plasma arc lighter to enough charge to light one fire, it took about 10 minutes. To charge my phone from dead empty to full was about 1 day worth of sunlight, but you wouldn't need that because you would turn it into airplane mode. You would have no Wi-Fi, no cell, nothing, just local, maps, and then the screen for a couple minutes to look at one little thing, one little reference thing, or turn on the radios and see if the cell towers are back on. It's like a couple thousandth of a kilowatt hour. So for small scale, it is like mandatory. As far as fire lighting, I'd have a couple chemical lighters. I've had at least one electric lighter, and then you're going to have your phone and a small portable solar panel, about 5 watts anyway. And if you go bigger than that, they're probably just lying, and then you need like a glass cover, aluminum frame, and all that. I've had a 10 to 20 watt panel. You couldn't really easily move around with that, so I'd go with a flexible, portable little 5 watt, which is actually about a 3.8 watt. But that's enough to charge your phone. It's enough to charge a little headlamp. It's enough to charge anything that plugs into USB. That I would go with that for any kind of small electronics, including your phone, and for fire lighting. So for lighting a fire, biomechanical, it's pretty much out. Rubbing sticks together is stupid. It almost never works. Experts will take an hour to do it. You need perfect conditions, perfect wood. It is a complete waste of time and money when you can just go, flick, fire, done, move on with my life. So biomechanical, which is you just eating food, that's out. It fails completely. Chemical energy in the form of butane, absolutely plausible, and electrical, absolutely plausible. So let's move up the scale. Transportation. 3,000 pounds of steel is out. I think you know what I'm talking about. I mean, there's all this, biodiesel, and I'll just grind up my neighbor's dandelions. No, you won't. You need catalysts, you need enzymes, you need all these additives, you need filtration. It's not as easy as to make it look, okay? It's just not. Nobody drives around with eternal biodiesel with a little, hack together setup for $100 at the hardware store. This is not how it works. So what about a little tiny electric bike and like the largest folding portable solar array that you can get? The best of the best of the best I've ever seen that could fit in a backpack and take up a lot of room, but it's still folding. It'll output about realistically 60 watts. And a do-it-yourself conversion on a bicycle or the battery pack in an ultra cheap, ultra unsafe, unstable, unreliable, wink wink if you know where I'm going with this, e-bike or electric scooter, yes, those fire hazards, that I'm convinced is welded by, well, probably actual children or like a blind person or a monkey. I'm not sure what maybe they trained a dog to hold a welder. If you see how some of those like $700 e-bikes are made, oh my God, like they are the pinnacle of unreliability. But let's just pretend you want to dump 2K, 3K into like a really good one. Cool, those battery packs are like a lot of watt hours. To drive at like 20 miles an hour for an hour a day, it would take something around like just ballpark like a week or two to have a portable 60 watt, even 100 watt solar panel charge it. And that's if there's sunlight. And then you'd be driving at night. So it's not really plausible to have electricity for any kind of movement, but it's also not plausible to move, anything with gasoline. If you got some little dirt bike, some little moped or something, okay, well now you got a smaller tank. I mean, the tank always scales with the size of the car. That's why, trucks can hold like 18 gallons and my little car can hold like, 11. And then where are you going to get more gasoline? You could throw some, you could try and store some, but if you're going to store it, you got to get ethanol free, so got to treat it. You might need an octane booster. Then it's flammable, it's dangerous, it's illegal in most places. It's just generally an unsafe, bad, stupid, not wallet-friendly idea. So if you think about I always keep 20 gallons of gas in my garage, well, you're going to have some skunky, sorted crap that dropped in octane after about 3 months. Or you're going to pay like $4 a gallon or what, I don't even know. I think it is 4 right now for 91 octane ethanol free. And then you're still going to need a treatment, and then you're still going to need funnels because it's at an angle. And then you're going to smell it if you're putting it in your car, and it's just not plausible. And plus, you know what, like 100 gallons of gasoline weighs. So it's not impossible. You might double or triple your range. This is not a perpetual thing. You ain't driving for even a week. It is impossible to drive for a week with anything. So forget about that. I guess siphoning gas if everybody just like dropped dead from some, radiation, something that doesn't exist. I have no idea. So movement, chemical, no, electric, no. Or you're just not going to move. You're going to go on foot. No, bicycles. Look up what bicycles did to change the world. I'm not going to get way into it, but it changed warfare. It changed shipping. It changed cultures. It changed everything when they invented the bicycle. It was actually more of a significant change to mankind than the car or the airplane by far. It's just such a crazy amount of energy conversion, and all you have to do is eat a little tiny bit more food, and the human body is insanely efficient, and you're going to keep eating food anyway. So as long as you go slow enough and get fit enough to not sweat, keep a normal pace. And remember, 5 miles an hour, just cruising at 5. Well, every hour you'll move 5 miles. So in a day, you can move like 40 miles, easy. Maybe 50, depends on the sunlight and all kinds of factors. But then it takes double the energy to go from 5 miles an hour to 10 miles an hour, right? Wrong. Oh my God, how many times have I said this on my channel? I hope you're yelling at your screen right now. 4 times the energy. How much energy does it take, difference, to go from 10 to 20 miles an hour? 4 times the energy. So to get from 5 to 20, it's 16 times the energy. Now then you've got rolling resistance, friction, wind resistance, and all this. It doesn't scale quite linearly, but to maintain it, and it's somewhat linear, but somewhat not. And I'm not going to get into graphs and math and all that, but just take my word for it that bikes are the most flexible. You could be starving and you could still jump on a bike and just kind of cruise at 5 miles an hour, which is like nothing. It is so much more energy efficient than running or walking or jogging. It's like 10 times more efficient. Like it's not even on the same planet. So bicycle, that is your only option. I mean, I guess a boat, and then you go rowing. I don't know. It depends where you are. So movement, let's get to refrigeration because that's kind of a step up. I mean, I got to throw this in because it's too funny. If you could drink 1 gallon of gasoline, you would have 31,000 food equivalent calories. But you can't. Your digestive system can't process gasoline. But, just so you know the ratios, But on one, tank, 2,000 to 3,000 calories worth of food. So 1 bag of Doritos. Very, very large, king size, the family size where I'm a bit of a family myself. Buy it off the shelf. Or one burger at Ruby Tuesdays, 2,400 calories. That doesn't include the fries, guys. And you can go with that 1 to 200 miles on a bike if you're somewhat fit and average sized. Now 30,000 calories worth of gasoline in a 3,000 pound car will get you about 30 miles. So just so you know the energy conversion levels, that's how much better it is. So buy a bike, buy some inner tubes, buy a hand pump. There you go. So electric bikes, cars, gasoline, mopeds, everything, it's all out. Nothing's realistic for perpetual except for bikes. So let's talk refrigeration. I'm just gonna move straight to freezing because it's almost the same amount of energy. But my chest freezer took, I believe it was somewhere in the neighborhood of 1 kWh per day. So 1,000 watts for 1 hour every 24 hours. Now that's, obviously it was burning about 90 watts when it was on and less than that when it wasn't. And I thought the compressor ran for about 1 minute every hour. I was way off. I actually don't remember the exact numbers. I should go back and watch my own dang video. But I think it was like 1 to 3 days you could run a freezer off of your entire car battery. So refrigeration, pretty beastly. The closest you're going to get to something that's fairly reasonable is a very big solar and wind hybrid setup probably. Because if it's cloudy for 4 days, that stuff just thawed out. It's that simple. So you either need a ton of batteries or you just need so much room or you need, 2 sources, backup generator, all that stuff. That's why people are like, yeah, I've got a multi whatever system, but you're looking at 10 grand plus. There's just no cheap way to do it. So the cheapest, I did the math, the cheapest to get like a system where it's about 500% over spec in case it's bad weather for just solar, plus a charge controller, plus an inverter. You're looking at about $2,000, and that's if you do it yourself. Oh, and that doesn't include the freezer. And then the batteries are going to burn out in a couple years anyway, so it's not great. But I mean, if you shoot a deer, you've got, a day or two where you could try to smoke it or dehydrate it, and that's like kind of hard to do. On one of them survival channels, somebody shot an elk and they tried to preserve it, and they tried to smoke it and all that, and they were pretty good at it. They've done it their whole life and they still screwed it up. It got rancid, it got moldy, they tried to eat like other parts of it, and they just couldn't keep it going for more than like 2 weeks. So it is very difficult, especially without, a kilogram of salt. You know what I mean? So freezing stuff, if you're gonna get some medium-sized game, yeah, it's pretty important. And you guys know my opinion on gardening. I mean, you could grow nothing but high-calorie stuff and somebody could just come at night and steal it all. And you got to wait a whole season and then one little, fungal thing and there goes all your potatoes. Look up the potato blight in Ireland. Yeah, so when it comes to just food preservation, freezing, all that, it's on the verge of being unrealistic. It's very expensive, but people who live way out in rural areas and they just get 1,000-gallon tank on their front yard propane deliveries, usually that's just for heating, cooking, whatever, and they're still hooked up to, a line of electricity that some federal grant basically paid to go put it out to their house, even though they're 10 miles outside the city. Now, there are propane generators that'll generate electricity for like really off-grid, but they're really expensive, high maintenance, kind of. They are designed to run longer, but I don't care if you've got a $700 piece of crap Chinese, generator you got at Harbor Freight or a $2,000 one. They are not meant to run continuously. You could even have a Honda, and the duty cycle on those things is like 6 hours. Some of the cheaper ones require an oil change every 30 hours of operation. They are that bad of motors. High friction, trash components, and they'll overheat, they'll wear out. This is not a car engine. I've even seen $5,000 generators that just read it. Look how often you're supposed to do maintenance on it. You cannot run it for a week. There's almost no generators out there you can run for a week. I mean, the really big diesel ones that are attached to a hospital are designed to run for about a week or a month or a year, but those are like $1 million. So generators, as far as anything to like run a fridge, it's pretty much out. And you're going to run out of gas. It's how do you store gas? It just becomes this whole thing. It's pretty stupid. So refrigeration is kind of on the verge of just being impossible. I would just move to the northern part of the US and just only preserve stuff by freezing by putting it outside. Let it snow, baby. So yeah, 1,000 watts for 1 hour, 1 kilowatt hour per day for a small freezer. You could get a minuscule one, but it's like, well, insulin isn't supposed to freeze, it's supposed to refrigerate it, right? So if that's you, yeah, I don't know. I think I've seen little tiny RV fridges that run at like a 50 watt and they plug in directly to 12 volt. Those are kind of neat, I guess, but you still need a buffer battery and at least like a 1 to 200 watts of solar, which is not cheap. And then those fridges are meant to put like 4 sandwiches in them, So even go as thin as possible. You ain't putting a deer in that thing is what I'm saying. Like how much food and why do you need to keep it cold? Like what would you even freeze? Anything smaller than a chest freezer, I don't see the point. So let's move up to cooking. Cooking or boiling water, pretty much the same thing. So boiling water on a really good propane burner, a quart of water takes me like a couple minutes, like 3 minutes. And to do it on an electric stove, the smallest coil, which I think is like 800 watts, somewhere in that neighborhood of electricity, takes, I want to say like 8 to 10 minutes. It's quite a bit slower. So yeah, the amount of energy to boil 1 gallon of water, which is about what one person needs in a day, Yeah, electricity's out. But what about propane? Well, I've said before, people hook up propane tanks to their house and run all the, the washer, the dryer, and all that, and well, mostly the dryer. Then they just fuel the propane directly into the stove and cook on top of propane. Pretty cool, but if you stretch it, you're gonna get 60 to 90 days out of that. So not very perpetual. And then where are you gonna go get more? That's why pretty much before 1850, is that about right? Everything everywhere was wood. Just burn wood. I mean, people would burn coal, and that went well. Look up the death fog of London, but that was a horrible historic event, not a band, not a metal band. It might be both, but generally it was wood because you chop down one tree, and yeah, it took like 20 years to grow that, but you chop down one tree, and you've got energy to heat your entire house or to cook on for quite a while. So a campfire, I tried to look up how many like watts continuous is a campfire. It's just all over the place. Ballparking it and what I thought was supported by some measurements in science, it's like 20 to 100,000 watts. A small campfire. So if you've just got one of those little cups or a little metal canteen, little 12 ounce or something like that, you just need to boil it. You could just go get some sticks, light them up, make a tiny little fire without, full cut logs and splitting and all that stuff. And you could boil water. What are you going to do? Set up like 500 watt solar arrays, wait for them to charge, get out a battery, wire it up, clip it, wait a day, and then boil water on an electric coil? Because that's about what it would take. It's just not going to happen. So as far as cooking and boiling water, both of them, it is outdoor fire only. There's nothing indoors that's chemical. There's no propane. There's no obviously biomechanical solution because like a human being, just for a benchmark on a like elliptical, like a pedal bike or something like that, can generate about 200 watts. Usually lower. I've heard it's between 1 and 300 watts. I've heard, it's different conversions and stuff. You look at a different article, you get a different number, but 200 is about the average. So your human body can put out about 200 watts. How are you going to capture that and cook with it? The heat. There's nothing that'll do that. Heat to electric or heat to stored heat and amplified heat is one of the hardest things we have. We barely have the technology to do it. And if we do, it's like 90% inefficient. So you're looking at outdoor campfire and burn fuel, and that's it. That is your only solution. And for heating your house, I hate to break it to you, but well, you probably can tell where this is going, how it's increasing, and this is the last thing on the list. Well, if you seal off a bunch, cover the windows with blankets and just go nuts, put a roll of something rolled up, jacket under every door and just get nuts, seal off your house to about 200 square feet. And you've got, full insulation in the house and you got the shingles above you, all that stuff, proper fiberglass insulation. You're still, to get 200 watts, you're going to need about like constant. You don't have to run a constant. You could duty cycle it, but like a 1500 watt heater, running pure electricity, you're going to need about half of it half the time. So depending upon the wind, we're talking it's about 10 degrees out, 10 degrees Fahrenheit. I think I tested this on down to -10 and it got real grim real quick. But with the wind blasting at -10, you need about 1,000 to 1,500 watts constant to keep 200 square feet of an insulated house, a modern house, at 60 degrees. So in other words, no, there's no generator. You are not going to have that happen. Solar, forget about it. Wind, not even close. You would have to own a wind farm. And that's 200 square feet with everything blocked off with blankets. I did this. It was an experiment. It didn't go great. So they say if you're staying in an off-grid cabin, however much firewood you think you need for the winter or for 1 month or for even one night, triple it because you're probably wrong. You need a pile, a mountain to get through winter. Most of it's going up the chimney and you can't just burn it indoors and let the smoke kill you. So there's not a great way to capture it. Pellet stoves are kind of cool because they're metal, whereas typically a fireplace would be stone, which is actually pretty much an insulator. But you're looking at like the infrared coming off the stone and convection and all that. They're like 5% efficient, but that's all you need because there's so much energy, chemical energy in wood. And you can get wood all over the place. So there are like emergency like heat sinked and active blower style, like I'm actually going to use this as a heater type of fireplaces. You'd have to get one put in, and I don't know much about them other than they're like 500% more efficient. They're meant to capture heat, and they've got like all this baffling, and they've got like conduits and stuff, and then they put like the metal. It's kind of like a radiator coming off a car, but without a pump, it's still passive, and it just captures more heat before it goes up and out, and those are really cool. Now, you could engineer it yourself if you just want to knock a couple holes in your chimney or your walls in case of emergency and just use aluminum, but It's still weird. A pro job would probably do better. And if you block too much of it and do it wrong, and get the ratios and pressures wrong, you're going to back up smoke in while you're sleeping, and then you're going to wake up dead. Classic joke there. Classic joke. So for heating your house, you're looking at burning organic matter, and that's it. I mean, there is one exception. Okay, who's been to a wedding at a park pavilion in the middle of winter in Wisconsin? You cram 60 people into that park pavilion, it's going to be so hot you're going to have to, especially if you're dancing, but replace with everybody doing jumping jacks and push-ups. Okay, now everybody's putting off 1 to 200 watts. That's 60 people, 200 watts. Even a fireplace can't match that. So still, I mean, biomechanical is kind of key if you've got enough people. But then how the heck are you getting enough water and food for those people? The people are going to run out of food, I guess you wouldn't need a refrigerator then, because you could just feed a deer to everybody in one night, but you better get 1 deer per day. So yeah, people are going to starve real quick if it's like a severe type of thing in the middle of winter in one cabin. But I thought I'd mention it. The Texas ice storm, I think people said like, hey, yeah, we got my whole family, my neighbors and whatever. We had like 8 people. We kind of just sectioned off just the living room, and then we all put off a whole bunch of heat, and we noticed we were heating the places. Yeah, it is possible. I think passively while you're sleeping, you put off, I think, like 30 to 40 watts, I think I heard, or something like that. So that's like the minimum energy state of a human, a fully grown adult. And then at full power, you can roughly match between a couple people, a family, like a large family, you could roughly match 1 space heater, which is not usually enough to heat your house. But it is possible, but I mean, I hate to say it, but if you had a bag of Doritos and you ate it and then did some jumping jacks and you heated your house with that, cool. Where you're going to start sweating probably, you're going to stop, and it's not great. But it actually would be a little bit more efficient, though not a good idea for ventilation reasons, to just light the Doritos on fire. Your body's efficient, but it's not that efficient. It's going to be biomechanical movement, it's going to be noise, it's going to be chemical processes, whereas if you just lit it on fire, it's 100% heat. So I'm not saying burn your food and then starve because it's going to heat your house better, but just so you know what the ratios are, that still chemical energy is still king. So for lighting a fire, you can get away with anything. I'd go electronics or electricity, just so that you can power your electronics, your flashlights, your data storage devices, your portable GPSs, whatever you got. It's minuscule. It's a $20 kit. Just go on eBay and get a 5-watt little panel, little flexible thing, and there you go. USB cables, lightweight devices, lightweight flashlights, and a couple 18650s and chargers, you're good. And you can't light a stick on fire and charge your phone with it. Sort of. There are devices that do it. But just take the easy route. Then when it comes to movement, you got to go biomechanical. That's all you. That's the only way to do it. Then when it comes to cooking, you're looking at chemical energy in the form of wood, and then heating your house, you're looking at pretty much chemical energy in the form of wood. Those are the only realistic ways to do it somewhat perpetually. So lighting a fire, electronics, movement, light, all that stuff. Refrigeration, it's kind of on the border. There just is no good way to do it, so I would just give up on it. Unless you've got thousands to throw into a super high-grade generator or an extremely good, expensive, like Powerwall level thing. And even then, like what, you're keeping your milk cold for a week? Like, I guess that would be kind of cool for like a couple-day weather event from a tornado or something. And for a rolling brownout, you could just legitimately, if you're not going anywhere, grab the battery out of your car, build a small array out of lithium, a video coming. Watch for how to run your refrigerator off a laptop battery. I'm just looking for the equipment. I legitimately lost it while we were renovating the house. But the video's coming, dang it. If you only need 1 day or 2, you can do it. There's enough chemical, electrical, any kind of energy to do it. I don't know how you're going to run a fridge off propane, pretty much just a generator, but propane generators, dual fuel, yeah, you're looking at thousands. So still electricity would eke it out, but I still, for any kind of perpetual thing, I would say it's just not feasible. You're just not going to run a freezer. So those are the categories, those are the results. Hopefully now you understand the scale where people are like, oh, well, if it could run my phone, it could run my fridge. No, you're insane. Oh, well, if I can run this little RV heater, this little 12 volt, 200 watt, then I could boil water with it. No, you need about 8 times more for about 8 times longer. But as long as you got 64 panels instead of 1, you're good. So, no. So yeah, the scale of it, the math, all that stuff, it's all just numbers, kilowatt hours and joules and BTUs. Like, I figured I'd just do relative and explain it in ways that make sense. So, hey, kept it way under an hour. That was my goal. This is a very complicated topic, and you need a lot of electrical knowledge and chemical knowledge to know all this stuff, but, well, now you do too. So I'm glad I made it. You're probably glad you watched it, and if that's true, leave a like and subscribe, because we got tons of other content like this. like how to heat your house for a couple days in case of a really bad power outage in the middle of winter. With, spoiler alert, the best way to do it is those buffet cooker things, those little chafers, I believe they're called, from Sterno. They burn insanely clean, no monoxide, and they have a 290 to 419 watt thermal output equivalent. So these little tiny $1 things, you can burn 3 of them on your stove, and just because your stove is built for heat, you can burn them anywhere, but don't want to light your drapes or your carpet on fire. And you've got 400 watts times 3. Here you go, 1,200 watts, constant, continuous. That'll heat the majority of your small house for several hours, and their burn time is several hours. So if you just get a 24 pack of those, you could heat for an entire extended 3-day outage. And then a battery powered carbon monoxide detector, and you're set. So I just ruined the whole video, but go watch it anyway. So hey, thanks for watching everybody, and I'll see you next time.